Hey guys, Brian Monnier, and I just wanted to ask you a real simple question. I've been getting a ton of private messages on Facebook, and I've been hearing a lot of stories of people and why they do yoga, why they want to start, what is it that brought them to it, and I thought I would share a little bit reason why I started in all this 18 years ago. When I was 26. I had really hurt my back doing a martial arts tournament in 2000 that really left me debilitated. I had kind of started doing yoga, and I wasn't really committed to it. It was kind of just something I was doing on the side. My girlfriend at the time was a Bikram yoga instructor, so she brought me to a class, and it was cool, but I really hadn't dedicated myself to a practice because I kind of felt like I had gotten what I was wanting out of martial arts. Now, around this time, I was also not really living a great lifestyle. I was waiting tables, I was bartending, which meant I was going to bed really super late. I was definitely drinking too much, eating to excess, and as much as martial arts that I was doing, I'd actually gained a lot of weight. I think between the ages of 24 to 25, I gained about 45 pounds, and I think that really did contribute to my ended up hurting myself in the tournament because I wasn't as in a condition as I should have been for it. And I'll never forget the day I'd started with my teacher Tony Sanchez at the time, and we were just beginning to kind of get deeper in our relationship as a student-teacher. And I walked in, and he looked at me and said, "You're done with martial arts for about 2 years." And he was right. I literally came back from the tournament in Karlsruhe, Germany in 2000, and I could hardly walk. Every movement was painful. I went to the doctor, and they told me that I had torn a ligament in my lower back and that I might need a surgery. And my knee also was not doing so great. And my doctor had said that I was definitely going to need a knee surgery, and I just kind of knew intuitively that once I started cutting into myself, it was going to be a long line of progression of surgeries. And later I found out, getting some education in the body when I became a yoga teacher, was that it definitely does. One surgery leads to another and another and another over the course of your life, and I just didn't want to do that. So, I kind of took my teacher on his offer to take his yoga teacher training, and it led to, it took about 2 years. It took about a really good 2 solid years of nothing but yoga. I cut out all my martial arts. I cut out, long walking. I ended up, becoming a teacher and was able to leave the restaurant industry. And ever since then, I've been a full-time yoga teacher. But the reasons why I did it was because I started and I was in pain. That's led to a really great, career helping people get out of pain. And that's kind of become my niche. The thing that, if you read through the testimonials on my website, we really get people who are at the last step. Where we get people who have been to all the doctors, they've been on all the medications, and I know this is true because it was my own experience. I was really on the last step before really making the decision to have to cut into myself, which would have led to a lot of other things in the future. And, if I just dedicated myself to my practice, and and that also includes eating right, getting the proper nutrients, getting the proper sleep, going to bed a little bit earlier, actually a lot earlier than I was used to, because I was getting off at midnight, 1 o'clock sometimes. And, when you get off that late, especially after waiting tables or a bartending shift, you don't go to bed till 2, 3, 4 in the morning because you need time to unwind. And you think about when you get home from work from your day job, what do? You need a couple of hours to relax, eat some dinner, watch TV, read a book, do whatever you do to unwind before you go to bed. The same was true with me. And, it was a decision. It's funny, yoga will give you things that you need to address. And, when you're kind of in a spot in your life, especially when it comes to pain, it's going to push you to do whatever is kind of necessary, and that might not be the thing that you want to do. Oftentimes when we're dealing with pain and chronic pain and being out of shape, unhappy with who you are, or what you look like, or how you feel, you're like on this fence, and you can stay on that fence for a really long time, but you got to make a decision which way you're going to go eventually. And if you don't make the decision within a certain amount of time, yoga will choose for you. And usually it's the more harsher of the two, because it's giving you the opportunity to make a lot of choices that you never did. And by the time it gets decided for you, you will more than likely be in a lot of pain, and you're going to need to go down the road that yoga is leading you to. And this is I've seen this true so many times in my clients. They get really bad sciatic pain, and they ignore it, and then it gets really bad, and they kind of ignore it, and then their back seems to break. And it just, you got to eventually make the decision to get off the fence and do something about it. When it comes to your pain and your injuries, the sooner you can get back on to a dedicated yoga routine, and remember that it's not the stretching that you get the most benefit out of. It's actually the stimulation of the internal organs in your spine, as well as the strengthening of your body, especially when it comes to a joint injury, that is going to really make your pain less. And we've been talking this week a lot about the things that you can do to make your pain better, and usually it starts with your nutrition and your lifestyle. But part of that lifestyle is that you have to really get a dedicated fitness and fitness routine in. You got to do the work. You got to show up, and you have to do the things that are going to make you better. And what the hardest part is, and I know this is true for me, was making the first step in that dedication. Back when my back injury got bad, I had signs that it wasn't doing great. I was getting off of my shifts, and my low back would be achy, and I would ignore it. Tony would always tell me, you're gonna hurt yourself eventually, and when you do, that's it. You have to really dedicate yourself. That's your sign that it's time for you. That the decision has been made, and it got made for me. And it was horrible. You don't have a choice in it because you're injured. It was difficult to sleep. A variety of emotions came up, and I just I really had to address some things about myself. And that's where yoga becomes a self journey. Yoga really becomes not a physical journey, but to get rid of all those things that are bugging you, to get rid of the pain that you're in, to get rid of the experience of being out of shape or unhappy with yourself. That comes from inside you. This is where yoga becomes really a personal, mental, emotional journey. And if you've been to my sessions, I really do focus more on the physical aspect. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a guru. I'm a yoga teacher that's really good at helping people get through their barriers, especially when it comes to their pain. And there is a point, though, where you have to look at those things inside you and get the help for that. You start in the physical, you move to the mental, and then the emotional. That's kind of the steps that happens in yoga. And I just want to encourage you to really take the step to start your practice, or if you have a practice, really get dedicated and make sure that you have a systematic plan for your practice each week. Remember to put plenty of good rest periods in where you're getting good sleep, where you're letting the body heal. And, hey, listen, do this. I would love to hear why you started, or why you're thinking of starting doing yoga, and just put it in the comments. Give some hearts, give some likes. I'm really curious to see why you are where you are in your journey, and what we can do and who we can connect you with to get you there. I know you might not be in San Francisco, but I know a lot of people, and I may know somebody in your area that can help you. And don't be afraid to take the step. Change happens with imperfect action. You're never going to get better just thinking about it. You're never going to get better waiting for the perfect moment to do it. Part of what makes it hard, in your practice, is just having that little bit of confidence to get a little uncomfortable and to do something that you've been maybe avoiding for a while. And don't let the decision be made for you. By the time the decision is made for you, it's a longer road. Just take the step and move into it. So again, do me a big favor. Put some likes, put some hearts, and please share why you started doing yoga or why you want to start doing yoga. Thanks. I'll see you tomorrow for tomorrow's Facebook cast at 10:30. Bye.